Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm teaching you how to make one of my family's favorite breakfasts, breakfast pizza. This pizza is delicious. It has a biscuit crust on the bottom and other delicious breakfast foods on top. What's great about this recipe is that you can vary many different things about it to your own liking, and this is another meal that tastes even better on the next day. Here are the things that we're going to need today for this recipe. Self-rising flour, oil, buttermilk, eggs. I happen to have sage sausage on hand, but I usually use regular sausage or a spicy sausage for this recipe. We're also going to need some frozen chopped peppers and onions. Now you could use fresh if you have those on hand. Also mozzarella cheese, 2 tomatoes, and salt and pepper. So grab your paper, pencil, have a seat, and let's get into this recipe. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make our biscuit crust. Now I am using 2 cups of self-rising flour, and I'm placing that in my bowl. I'm making a well in the bottom of my bowl, and into that I'm going to add 1/4 cup of my oil. Now I'm using vegetable oil for this one. Now if you are using shortening instead of the vegetable oil, use about 3 tablespoons and just cut it into the flour. Next I'm adding 3/4 cups of full-fat buttermilk into the well. Next I'm going to begin to stir in the center, bringing in a little bit of flour at a time. Just keep stirring in the center, pulling just a little bit of flour. Now if yours ends up being too dry, just add about a tablespoon of milk at a time. And we're mixing until all the flour is incorporated. Just keep stirring. Once my flour is all incorporated, I'm going to turn it out onto a lightly floured surface. And I'm going to work the dough just a bit until it is not too sticky and it's easy to handle. Just turn it over a few times, add a little bit of flour, then we're going to shape it into a ball. Now I added a teaspoon of oil to my bowl and I swirled it around just so that I can put my dough in and I can be able to handle it. I'm going to let this rise about 15 minutes. Now while my dough is rising, I'm going to get some of my other ingredients ready. Now I'm adding a little bit of oil to the pan and I'm going to saute my peppers and my onions. Now since these are pretty big pieces, once they're sauteed, I will cut these up just a little bit more. Now if you are using fresh, be sure to chop these up into smaller pieces. Now I'm going to saute these on medium. Now once these are finished sauteing, I'm going to cut them up into smaller pieces and then I'm going to put them in a bowl and I'm going to set them aside. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cook up the sausage. I'm going to keep chopping it up to its tiny little pieces. Looks like the sausage is finished, it's browned, and I'm going to put that aside in a bowl. My biscuit dough is ready, and I'm going to place a little bit of oil on the pan, not much, a couple teaspoons, and I'm going to swirl that around the pan with my fingers. Alright, I'm ready to turn my dough out onto the pan, and I'm going to work from the center out, just like you would pizza dough. Now you can make this ahead and then have it the next morning. You could have it for several mornings, unless you have a big family. Then you're going to probably have to make 2. Kind of push it up the side so that you have kind of like a pizza crust. Make sure it's evenly spread. My biscuit crust is about ready to go in the oven. I've preheated it to about 425. We're going to cook it first. This is going to cook in the oven about 10 to 12 minutes. We don't want it good and brown. Now I'm going to work on the eggs. I've got 8 eggs in a bowl, and I'm going to whisk those together. I'm melting a tablespoon of butter. I'm adding my eggs to the pan. Just keep moving the eggs around with the spatula. Try not to overcook them. We don't want any browning on these. Looks like my eggs are just about finished. The last thing I do is I salt and pepper on top. And then we're going to set these aside. I'm going to slice my tomatoes. Slice them pretty thin. Probably need 1 to 2 large ones. And place those on my plate. We are ready to start assembling. You want to make sure your crust is not brown on top. You'll notice that it's getting brown around the edges, and that is just fine. The first thing we're going to do is place our scrambled eggs evenly on top of our crust. Be sure to break up any big lumps that you run into. Just keep spreading it around evenly. Onions and peppers are next. Sprinkle these around evenly all over the pizza. Use as much or as little as you like. Now our sausage topping is next. I made a whole package of sausage. You could use less. You could even use some bacon or ham if you want, or all of them. Make sure it is evenly spread around. Now it's time for some tomato. So I just line these up all the way across. Whoops. Last but not least, it's time for cheese. Cover right over your tomatoes. Put as much as you want. You could even mix it with cheddar or Monterey Jack cheese if you wanted to. If you wanted to salt the tomatoes before you put the cheese on, that would work just as well. This pizza is ready to go back in the oven on 375 for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to broil it just to melt the cheese. Here is our finished, delicious breakfast pizza. It smells so good. You want to make sure not to overbroil it. We want our cheese melted and gooey and not browned on top. You have that delicious biscuit crust with the sausage and eggs and a little onions and peppers topped off with those red tomatoes and gooey cheese. Makes this an appetizing breakfast. Now you can take the leftovers, put it in the refrigerator, have it the next day. It'll be even better. This also makes a great dinner if you want to have breakfast for dinner. I hope you enjoyed this recipe, and I hope it becomes one of your favorites. Don't forget to leave me a comment below. I love to hear from you. Thank you for tuning in and watching. Come back for more yummy comfort foods coming your way. Please like, share, and subscribe so you'll be notified when I have another recipe to share with you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.